Hey folks, so I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about medical conditions. I want to start by talking about one that I've had here for a while now. For a little over a year now, I've been dealing with what I would call a minor foot injury. It's primarily the result of what I do for a living. Now, I've told you guys about all the long hours I've been pulling, all the overtime I've been working. I haven't really gone into detail about that. I work on my feet all day long. I'm standing and I'm walking for my entire shift for the most part. And I've been working an average of 60 to 70 plus hours a week. So that's a lot of walking. I think I've walked as much as 9 miles in one shift at work. As a result, I've injured the ligament on the bottom of my left foot. Now again, it's not a major injury because it didn't require surgery. But I kept putting off going to the doctor. And there was a reason for that. One is in the beginning, it just didn't seem significant enough, and I didn't want to spend the money. Two, it started bothering me during the height of the pandemic when they were making it so difficult for you to get in to see a doctor or get any kind of medical treatment, where you had to have a certain thing to get in to see a doctor. You had to get stuck in the arm. Whether you wanted it or not, that's the only way. Some doctors were refusing to see you unless you had that. And even then, some would only see you if it was a very serious emergency. So I put it off for those reasons. And for over a year, I continued to work and just gritting my teeth through the pain. Well, it kept getting worse, and finally it got to a point where I couldn't walk without limping, and it was a very pronounced limp. I finally ended up having to go see a doctor, and it's taken 4 or 5 trips to the doctor, several injections, some x-rays. For a while, the doctor thought he was going to have to do surgery. Fortunately, this last visit, he made the determination he didn't think I needed surgery after all, which is good news. But it brings up a very important thing that is often overlooked or often put to the side by a lot of people. We get so caught up on doing what we need to do, and our health is one of the things that we tend to let slip by us. We either tend to ignore it or just keep putting it on the back burner because something else comes up. We've got this to do, we've got that to do. And the truth is, if things get really bad in this country and it ends up being a grid down SHTF like a lot of people think, I'm going to need to be on my feet. I'm going to need to be able to get out and do things at a much more active level than I've been over the past year at home. Because I would work so much at work, and then when I would get home, I would literally be in so much pain. All I would want to do is just sit down and get off my feet. So I would really limit what I was doing after work. And in a grid down SHTF, you're going to have to do just the opposite. You're going to have to be on your feet doing more and more and more than you've ever done before. That's going to essentially be your full-time job. So I needed to make sure that I was going to be able to do those things. Plus the fact that the pain had gotten so bad that I could hardly walk. That's what motivated me to finally get something done about it, because for a while there, I thought I was actually going to end up having to quit my job. Um, it was rough, and a lot of people are letting their health slide by for similar reasons or for other reasons. What I wanted to explain to everybody is, again, in a grid down SHTF, you're not going to have access to a hospital. You're not going to have access to the doctor for at least the odds of that happening are going to be very slim. So you need to make sure, you need to prioritize your health. As important as food is, as important as water is, as important as weapons and security are, I would suggest that your health is probably more important than any of those. Because you can find workarounds for all those other things. But if your health goes down, that can be the difference between literally life and death. It can make the difference between you being able to take care of yourself and your family or not. So don't let these things, don't keep putting these things on the back burner. Don't keep letting them slide. You have to prioritize these things, and you have to get them taken care of, particularly now, because I'm seeing more and more reports about medications are being in short supply. A lot of people are going to the pharmacy to get their prescriptions, and they're not able to get the full prescription. They're only being allowed half of their prescription amount due to shortages, or the pharmacy not knowing when they're going to get more in, so they're trying to stretch it as far as they can and help as many people as they can. Because most people aren't aware, but I think it's somewhere around 80 to 90% of the prescription medications used in the United States come from China. So right now, with them dealing with lockdowns again, plus the potential of a military conflict with China, these things are going to become more and more difficult to get from China. Our supply is going to be more and more limited, and you need to make sure you have what you need. If you're on a regular maintenance prescription, talk to your doctor. See if there's a way you can get 30, 60, or even 90 days supply built up in case there's an emergency or you run out. If you're on something more serious like painkillers or some other controlled substance like that, there's going to be a limit as to what you can do. Because the insurance and the doctors will only allow you to get so many at one time, because there's the risk of you overdosing on painkillers. And there's other drugs that fall into that same category that aren't painkillers, but doctors won't prescribe more than a certain amount at a time because of the risks of them. But along those same lines are any kind of medical treatments you might need. If there's a medical treatment that you need that you've been putting off, now is the time to get it done. If there's any way you can afford to do it, I would strongly suggest that you find some way to get it done. Because as we saw with the pandemic, there were a lot of people that needed major surgeries, things like heart surgeries. There were people that needed transplants. There were people that needed joint surgeries, hip replacements, things like that. They were being turned away from the doctor's office and from the hospitals because the priority was on the patients exhibiting symptoms of the pandemic. Those were prioritized over everybody else. Everybody else that was not considered critical was being turned away. Well, now we're seeing this new thing, the new pox that's being reported. And, you know, Biden himself is saying, this is serious. You need to be worried about it. Of course, you have the CDC saying it's concerning. You have the WHO saying it's something to be concerned about. But then you have mainstream media not covering it, and then you have social media automatically flagging or removing any kind of posts talking about it. So regardless of whether this is a threat or not, it poses the possibility that we could be looking at yet another health crisis here in the United States that results in lockdowns and quarantines and things of that nature. And should that happen, you're not going to be able to get those treatments again for a while, unless it's life-threatening or related to the health emergency. So I would strongly advise you, if there's any way to do it, if there's any way possible, get the treatment you can, that you need now. Try to talk to your doctors if you're on any kind of maintenance medications, and see if he will write you a prescription so that you can get extras in case there's a supply chain disruption. And you don't have to talk to him like you're a prepper and you're worried about SHTF and all of that. Just tell him, through the pandemic, there were shortages, and you're seeing shortages of medications now. You're seeing shortages of other things now, and you're worried about running out of critical medications in the event that there's more supply chain disruptions. In most cases, if you've got a good doctor, in most cases, that doctor will understand, and they will write you, or they will work with you to get you a little extra of your medication so that you have some on hand. Again, there's some medications, you've got painkillers and controlled narcotics, things like that, that you may not be able to get extras of because you're only allowed a certain amount at a time because of the risks of those drugs. In those situations, you're going to be a little bit limited in what you can do. It may be possible to cut back very, very slightly on some of your medications and put some back every time you feel it. However, you need to talk to your doctor about that, and you need to make sure that doing so doesn't jeopardize your health or exacerbate any kind of health issues that you do have. Another option that you might want to look at is if you're on a maintenance medication that you have to take on a daily basis or a weekly basis just to maintain your health, talk to your doctor and see if there's a way that you can somehow get off of that medication through a lifestyle change, such as diet, exercise, and what have you. That might be an option as well. Some people, again, that's not going to be possible. If you're a diabetic and you need insulin, you're just going to need insulin. That's all there is to it. There's no way around it. You can't cut back on that because that could be devastating. And the bad thing about that is with insulin, you have to take it, and if you can't get it, you're in trouble. You're in serious trouble. And it's one of those drugs and one of those health issues that pose a serious risk to people in an SHTF. And it's one of those things that if that's what you're dealing with, you've really got to look at your situation and try to figure something out. Again, your options may be limited, or you may have several options. It all depends on the individual, your health issue, what you can work out with your doctor, any alternative treatments or therapies that you can come up with, or changing your lifestyle and your diet so that you're not dependent on drugs. So these are things that you're going to have to look at for yourself, because everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have a different circumstance. You may have options, you may not. But now is the time to do it, because with all of the crises that we're facing, from the current pandemic that we're coming out of, to potential World War III, global conflicts, which will disrupt supply chains, to the potential for another health crisis or health emergency in the United States and globally, because whether the pox is the next emergency, or whether it's something else that may come along, they are predicting that there's going to be something far more serious than the last pandemic to come along anytime now. So they're already predicting it, they're already wargaming it. And if you're one to believe in conspiracy theories, that they may already have it in the works. So how you look at that is up to you, but this is a subject that definitely needs to be number one on your priority list. I waited over a year to go to a doctor, and it severely limited what I was capable of doing. I have gone to the doctor, I've gotten treatments. I'm getting better. I'm not completely healed yet, but I'm getting better. The one thing aggravating my own injury right now is the sheer amount of hours that I work, and the amount of walking that I do. As much as 9 miles in one day. That's a lot of walking on a hard concrete floor, and it does damage to you. Anyway, if you deal with one of these issues, I strongly suggest you talk to your doctor and you look at all your options and try to take care of this now, or prep for it the best you can. This is, without a doubt, one of the highest priorities in your life. Again, food, water, security are important, but if you're jeopardizing your health, if you're going without critical medication that you need, or if you've got a critical illness that you haven't had treated or taken care of, all the rest doesn't matter. So, again, evaluate your own issues, your own situation and what you're dealing with, and look into what you need to do to resolve that while you still can. Anyway, that's all I've got. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Take care, stay safe, keep prepping, and until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.